Good morning, everyone. At this time, I'll call the Audit and Control Committee meeting to order for May 21st, 2026. At this time, if everyone has had an opportunity to review the minutes from the previous meeting, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is carried. Next item on the agenda today is privilege of the floor. Is anyone here wishing to address the committee? If so, please come down front. Not seeing any today. We'll move into our agenda items. Our first agenda item, number 1, is renew and amend Resolution 6026. It's amend capital project accounts, Jamestown Community College.
Good morning. Is this on? Okay. I'm Kathleen Dennison, and I'm a consultant for Jamestown Community College in the areas of finance and operations. And this resolution, you may recall from February, the college found that we would have a surplus in one of our projects, which was roofing, because the planned replacement of the roof for our physical education building, we, instead of doing a total tear off and replacement, are putting a new surface on top, so it is less expensive. And we would like to move some, or did move some of that funds from that project into a project to replace generators that power our IT, or power the IT backup for the college. But when I did the resolution previously, I used the wrong amounts. The $115,000 budget transfer, that's the total amount of the money that we need for the generator project, but the county is only responsible for funding 25% of that. So the amendment would change the county budget transfer from $115,000 to just 25% of that. The other funds for the project, 50% are funded by the state and 25% by the college.
Okay. Questions, comments from the committee?
I am glad that you got that and brought it to our attention. I'm kind of wondering how we missed it on the county side back in February.
I was just focused on the amount of the
Well,
total.
Not you, us.
What?
Not you. I understand you're fixing it.
Oh,
God bless you. But as we pay attention to the county's funds, we should have woken up that it was a 100% number instead of a 25% number.
well, there was,
I'm sorry.
yeah, I mean, well, there are, there was that amount of, it appeared that there was that amount of money to transfer, but honestly, how I found it was after the transfer was done, one of our projects was over budget because we'd taken out 115 instead of only 28,000.
Well, thank you for finding.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? We don't need to vote on this. It'll be voted on the floor, right? So,
All set?
all set?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda today is the local law introductory 426. It's a local law amending local laws 613 and 319 of the county of Chautauqua, imposing a tax on the occupancy of hotel and short-term rental rooms and establishing a short-term rental registry.
Hey, good morning, Nate Harp, Assistant County Attorney. So Kitty Lyons asked if I could fill in for her. She was unavailable to attend to explain the amendments to this local law. Basically, the state recently passed a new statute which is requiring generally that counties either start a short-term registry consistent with the state statute, and they've outlined in great detail how that would look, or opt out of doing so. However, we already had a pre-existing short-term rental registry, so we kind of get grandfathered in and we're entitled to continue operating it, we can amend it, and so forth. And so the finance department wanted to take the opportunity to make sure that our local laws have language and definitions that are consistent with the state's. It should make it easier in the future if the state issues guidance or interpretations of its statutes that could be instructive when we're looking at our own. It's also helpful, you'll notice that the purpose section is maybe a little more detailed than usual. The thinking there was to make sure that there's a clear public record of what the county's position is. You know, should the state wonder why we haven't opted out or followed their procedures exactly. Hopefully you should have all received a brief cover memo which highlights a couple of the substantive changes brought about by the, you know, adopting the state's definitions would kind of change the way a couple of de facto exceptions work. And I won't pretend to be an expert on the whole administration of our occupancy tax or anything, but as to the changes in this local law, if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them as best I can.
What identifies a short-term rental? What is that? What would be that classification, if you would? Just as,
The definitions in the local law should,
30 days. It's on the bottom of the
Yeah.
second page.
or less.
30 days or less.
so previously, in our local law, the term hotel/motel encompassed short-term rental units, and the way that the state does it is they break it out.
Uh-huh.
An entire dwelling unit, room, group of rooms, other living or sleeping space, any other space within a dwelling made available for rent for less than 30 consecutive days.
So
Okay.
is the 30-day a state mandate? Are we free to make it 15 days if we want?
I believe we could.
Then why wouldn't we? Well, and I'm thinking of what goes on in the institution,
Mhm.
where there's just a raft, and historical raft of 2-week rentals that go through there as people pick which seasons they want to do. And so that's going to be a big change on those guys who've been doing this forever. But are you sure we have the ability to change that, or is that something the state?
I would look into it before saying affirmatively one way or the other. Yeah.
Okay. Because I would go for a shorter term than 30 days myself.
Yeah, and you do raise a good point, because the original definition, as you see, of hotel or motel did kind of exempt, well, it exempted lodgings that were only rented for fewer than 14 days total in the year.
And that might pick up most of those. Anyways, just, I wanted to make sure it was under our purview, because if it is, then it's a decision item.
Right.
And the other thing, and I'll go through, just on what they, it's a 1G occupancy. I noticed the word possession is tossed in there. Are we giving somehow, or is the state somehow giving renters an equity interest in a property by using the word possession? What's that coming from, as opposed to just leave it at use?
That's consistent with the state language and the language that we've used traditionally. Possession has kind of it's kind of a legal term of art, and, you know, when you've paid for the use of a facility for a certain period of time,
Right to use,
there is,
right to use ought to cover that, but anyway.
right,
I just asked that, I've run into this kind of thing in terms of franchise law, and people put words in like that, and all of a sudden somebody argues that they now have an equity interest in a brand. That's the analogous situation I've run
Sure.
across.
yeah.
And so that just set up a yellow light.
Yeah, it's not,
And then
the underlines are our insertions, and the strike-throughs are what we're taking out. It's not something that we're
No, I
throwing
know
in
it's-
there or anything like that.
See, it's not a change.
Yeah.
One thing is a change is we're going from 30 to 90 days in terms of being a permanent resident.
Correct.
Now, that strikes me as not having anything to do with short-term rentals and has to do with voting rights and a bunch of other things. Is that correct? When we
The
determine-
permanent resident is, it would be specifically in the application of this law. It wouldn't be something that'd be construed for any other purpose. It's just in terms of which particular occupancies would incur the occupancy tax. It would be strictly confined to the operation of this local law.
Okay, good. I mean, no, it strikes me as redundant because we've already said 30 or 15 days or something. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry. I'm sorry, I just spent a whole bunch of time this morning going through this because I'm used to going through contracts.
Sure. It's dense and, yeah.
And, just raising my question there, it was, what classifies it as a short term? It was, kind of just a simple question in sense of who picks that number, and where that came from. So it sounds like you're going to investigate that 30-day window, if that's what needs to be in there, or if that could be adjusted a little and still
Yeah.
fit within this, what the state's target goal is or whatever. And I guess you could argue either way if 30 days or 15 days is a reasonable amount. But at the end of the day, the imposition of this is to make that registry and I don't think it's to impede at all in the business in sense or the ability for those people to rent those rooms. It's just establishing the registry and making it fair across all rental claims.
I believe we already have a registry, and they already have to get a certificate of registration for at least 7 years or so.
Okay.
So we're, again, this is just adopting the state's definitions, which, as Legislator Johnson points out, does have some substantive changes when you do that, and making tweaks to our own process,
Okay.
which we're entitled to do under the state statute.
Okay.
All right.
Mr.
And
Nelson?
would I assume the registry then would allow us to track if they're complying with safety regulations or building codes or
I can tell you
health
that there
codes
is,
possibly?
yeah, there's a provision where the state is more comprehensive with this than we are in this proposed local law.
There's fire extinguishers and fire exits. and
Right, so we're just,
Same kind of stuff you'd see in a hotel room in
Right,
this.
well, I'm assuming that gives us that ability to track that, and if we,
I think
and then, but
Kitty said the other day they
the
saw.
enforcement of that, I don't know, is that?
Well, that would be code enforcement officer's job, I would think.
the way that we have it
For the
set up is
town,
they're
for the
just,
county?
The town, I would
The
think.
towns have them individually.
sorry. The way that we have the language is when you're applying for a short-term rental certificate of operation, you would just attest that, there's a conspicuously posted evacuation diagram, a fire extinguisher, and that it's otherwise compliant with applicable laws.
So, if I may, Mr. Chairman, just on now this next page. I notice also just in housekeeping, that the page numbers are getting jammed into the paragraphs, kind of in the lower quarter of the page, just as cosmetics. But, all right, so item L, a return is any return filed or, a return is a return, do they really want to? I think you mean it's a report on, a financial report or something, it's. The other one is on 2, imposition of tax. do we really want to lock ourselves into the maximum percentage as authorized by the legislature, or do we want to have that percentage determined by this legislature? It's just a requirement that we have to always run with the maximum percentage that the state legislator, the state imposes?
I don't know that it's a requirement. Again, this language is carried over from the county's current
Okay, no, fair
local
enough.
law.
But it, again, if that's then is a decision, is, do we want to lock ourselves into that, or don't we? Then under 3, so by the way I read that, that's an ex post after the fact thing, because you go back to 2008 and then require something that may or may not have been done between 2008 and now, is that right? Although such occupancy is pursuant to prior contract? Is that a look back regulation?
It's not intended to be, since the local laws,
I mean, it just reads like it is.
sure.
And then down under number 4, exempt organizations, sub 3, is whoever drafted this walking on people's First Amendment rights? I'm not a lawyer, but goes on anyway.
That's 4A3 you're looking at?
So 4A3, and no earnings of which inures to the benefit of any private shareholder or individual, and no substantial part of the activities of which is carrying out propaganda or otherwise attempting to influence legislation. Substantial part, who the heck is the judge's substantial part? And otherwise, it's anybody's constitutional right to try to influence legislation. So how do you do that? I mean, maybe they've got that run by the lawyers, and the constitutional lawyers up in Albany have said that's okay, but
Yeah,
my
I mean,
simple civics education says what?
well, I can only speculate. This is,
Mr. Nelson? You're the history teacher.
yeah, this provision is defining
Question.
who is exempt. I mean, I think it's getting at typically what would be nonprofits or, you know,
If you have a 501(c), period, cut it, but then they roll this business in about somebody who might want to be attempting to influence, anyway. Just,
yeah, no, I understand.
it's a constitutional law question, and it's
yeah.
probably above all our pay grades, but
It's beyond the scope of what I was asked to do with the local law.
Sure,
Looking
sure.
at these, yeah.
then over on the next page, when we say local law in item 6, do we really mean county law, or do we also mean local municipal law? B6, right at the very last one, number, is not otherwise prohibited from operating,
Oh.
blah, 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 blah. Local, federal,
Yeah, I
state.
think of lowercase local law could include, you know, town or municipality, resolution. It would also encompass capital L local laws that go through the Secretary of State.
Okay, so we're okay with before the fact, in one of our documents, rubber stamping what any local municipality might or might not do. I think that's just the intent question. Or do we want to just say county law? Anyway.
It makes sense to me as written. It's basically just an attestation that Whoever is trying to operate a short-term rental unit does not know of any law that they're violating
Okay.
from any source.
Then I'm way over now on 9 returns. And we get into, on the following page, bonds. Is this consistent with how we operate sales tax? In terms of giving the chief financial officer of the county unilateral decision power to require a bond of an operator?
I wouldn't want to try to, that would be a Kitty Lyons question. I wouldn't want to try to
Just,
speculate.
again, in my world of liquor licenses, being required to post bonds on things, which is kind of customary in the liquor business, is one right pain in the neck, and it's also pretty coercive before-the-fact tool to jam down on a business person. And I'm not sure I just want to give the director of finance that kind of power. So again, somebody up in the state wrote this, and that was my crack about contract of adhesion.
Sure.
When attorneys write contracts for a client, they tend to write them as broadly as they can. In this case, the client was the state. And we're sitting here representing our constituents, and there isn't a lawyer across the table representing our constituents to negotiate this.
Sure. I should clarify one thing, which is that the definitions that we're adopting from the state
Right up
are
front.
typically, are pretty much confined to under the first section of the local law, subtitled definitions. And the rest of these sections, imposition of tax and so on, and then down to section 10, I think we're in. This is our current local law as it exists from, I believe, 2013, and then it was amended in 2019. So this, presumably, I don't know if it came from the state through some other channel,
Okay.
but this is what the law department did at that time.
Okay, or approved at that time. And given it's our local law, as I read this for the first time,
Understandable. And
I asked the question.
The local law as is kind of scattered in a couple different local laws, so that's another goal here, is to put it all in one place so we can examine it like this.
Anyway.
I agree with you on the bond. It is ascertaining a bond is not an easy process sometimes. It really
It
isn't.
can be a pain in the neck.
Yes, it is, yeah.
And it's just putting a pistol in Kitty's hand that I'm not so sure I want to put there.
It could potentially, yeah, it could, as it is deterred me from pursuing certain things is having to ascertain a bond. And
Yeah.
I'm like, is it not worth my time or effort? And it just wasn't. And so I didn't pursue whatever it was.
No, you've lived in the real world, so have I.
Yeah.
And this is just, it sounds innocuous, but when you dig into it in the real world, has real consequences. And is giving an administrative, unelected person a real power to preemptively do stuff to my constituents. That's a power somebody ought to consider before we just toss it out there. And let me see, do I have anything else of any important? So, all right, I'm gonna leave it at that, except to have one whinge, one whine. Now, I am not a MAGA type, I am not a fan of some of Mr. Trump's thing, but somebody has gone through this thing and changed all of
His and hers to
all
theirs.
the his and hers to theirs, except the poor folks have missed one. And on item 18, the politically correct editors have missed one. Second line. So, I'm sorry, I'm just complaining that I think you either have a Y chromosome or you don't, and that's got real physical and perhaps psychological effects. And this kind of thing is just, But anyway, that's just a complaint.
Any other questions or comments pertaining to this local law? Sounds like there's a couple of things that we, Mr. Johnson and the rest of us would like to get in, response back to if possible. Sounds like you were able to answer most of them except for the bond issue, so maybe we can have Kitty respond to us in sense of what that purpose of the bond portion is before the upcoming legislation meeting. But other than that, it sounds like
And the 15-day,
that's correct. So that's something that the attorney can look into beyond, and then Kitty's the only one that's not here, obviously, so maybe you can correspond with Kitty if that would be
Sure.
okay, to
Yep.
ask about the bond and have that discussion. So just those few things, that would be great. Mr. Scudder?
Yeah, I appreciate, Fred, this is great that you read through all that. I only read through the strikeouts and but being here as long as I have, and I remember when we set this up in 2013, it's just difficult enough to figure out who's renting out these and trying to enforce that. I'm sure, and I understand what you're saying, but I'm sure Kitty's not gonna, oh, there's a house over on 4th Street, I'm gonna go get a bond from those people. It's hard enough just to know, it's kind of a on your honor. Airbnb and Verbo have really helped because now you register and they account to us at the county, but people doing it on their own, and Kitty has even said it, it's hard to enforce just the collection of this tax, let alone page 7, Article 3, and I'm not being critical of you guys reading this and finding that. I think it's great, but I don't think we have to be too concerned about us going in and enforcing bonding and propaganda and, and as we pay attention across the county, local municipalities are fighting sometimes amongst themselves, but what's going on with short-term rentals in their own municipality. So, and they have the right to do that. They can ban it, they can approve it, they can modify it. I'm sure they can do whatever they want. I think this is just a general alignment with the state of New York, and it all comes down to that, opting in, opting out. So I think the intent of this is good. I don't know about it, if every word is correct. And again, I'm not being critical of it being read, but like I said, we have trouble enforcing the collection of it. And I don't want people out there hearing that like, oh, we don't have to do it. But, okay, enough said. Thank you.
no, just in response to that, and it is complicated, but at the end of the day, it is our law, and it ought to reflect what, in fact, we, the legislature, wanted to say. And yeah, that's work, and yeah, that's detailed, but if you don't do the work, you don't get what you want.
Fred, I said I appreciate,
Okay, sorry. No, thank you.
I'm glad you're here to read it.
Well, that's, I would agree with you. I think it's an administrative burden, I think, for Kitty.
We don't have it.
Huh?
We can't police this.
Right, yeah, that's.
We would have
that
to
was
set
my
up a
thought, too.
department of short-term rentals.
Mhm.
And then I don't know if you can police it all, but
Well, and the overregulation can hurt tourism too, which
Sure.
we don't want. So, but that's a
no,
lot,
I'm
yeah.
not in favor of that.
Yeah,
Well, there's
there's a
also,
balance there.
there's also reflex and broader issues. There's policing something before the fact and policing something after the fact. And generally, one should police things after the fact, not before. Policing something before the fact gets into permitting, licensing, and all the rest of that stuff. Policing stuff after the fact says, thou shalt not speed on the highway, but we're not going to have all sorts of permits, but if we catch you doing it, you're going to be penalized. So, the way, it makes it a whole lot easier if somebody's doing a rental on the sly, we find out about it, there's a penalty. And that's how that gets policed, as opposed to trying to get at it up front. So that's just a long, kind of, again, another one of those law enforcement choices. Do you want to police it up front and after the fact, or you want to police it just after the fact? Deter it. And again, that's, when you try and do it up front, then you really get into a whole bunch of bureaucracy.
And, you know, to the point, I sense that we don't have the ability to police it in sense, but what happens frequently enough is that, you know, we want it to be fair across the board in sense of those all participating under the same rule book. And what happens is those that aren't necessarily confiding with the law end up getting turned in through some channel in sense of a competitor,
Sure.
not, you know, being disgruntled that they're not following the same rule book. And then also the, you know, you have a situation, maybe you have some EMS response to a place that isn't up to certain standards or codes, and becomes an issue, and you become aware of it at that point in time. So, you know, it kind of happens through various channels, but once it's on the registry, then it's known. And you know, at the end of the day, we don't want it to be a burden. We just are trying to have it be within the bounds of the law and not over some. So, any other questions or comments before we go to the next local law?
I guess I shouldn't, but yeah, I'd rather they had a fire extinguisher in there than
That's right.
we're worried about whether they had to sign a bond. Again,
Yeah, they got that too.
Yeah.
And I think, at least in Westfield, the local code is you have to have smoke detectors every so often.
right.
Smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors,
Yep.
you know, those things, and that's for the reason. We want safety as much as anything, and, you know, and quite frankly, the fee that we are charging is the fee that just pays for some of the administration. There is a lot of time.
Some of the administration.
That's right. And then the rest, obviously, you know, there's benefits to the registry for sure. It's put back into the communities, so.
And it's just given computer technology, by updating this to the world of Airbnbs and vacation rental by owners, you know, obviously makes sense.
Okay,
Excellent.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Any other questions before we move to the next local law?
No.
Are you sure? All right. No, and just a comment on that is, you know, it's great that we had so many questions revolving that, as Fred suggested. It is a local law. It is a law that the legislature is going to approve or either not approve or wish to amend next meeting. So, great conversation. Next local law is local law introductory 626. It's a local law amending local law 486 as amended regarding the liability and casualty reserve fund and small claim settlements.
Okay, so, again, hopefully you got this cover memo. I think this one's, you know, the changes here are a little more straightforward. It does raise the dollar amounts of, and kind of changes the approval process for settlements within certain monetary thresholds. So settlements up to 5,000 would be subject to approval by the executive, 5 to 25,000, the executive and a committee of 3 legislators. A big change here is that settlements from 25 to 50,000 would be the executive and a committee of 5 legislators, and then above that would be going to the full legislature. I will point out that this would be subject to a 60-day permissive referendum period, and that's because by bringing, you know, settlements up to $50,000 out of the hands of the full body of legislators, it has the effect of transferring power, and under the state's municipal home rule law, that requires a referendum period.
Okay, interesting.
I mean, these adjustments are they coming from the recommendation of a committee, which body?
Where'd this come from?
I think that it was perhaps in discussion with the executive. I was asked to put this together internally at the law department. I guess I don't want to speculate too much as to where it ultimately came from.
No, I just was curious where the amendments were derived from, in the
Perfectly
sense that-
reasonable question.
Yeah, if they were, you know, I can understand the premises. I just was curious, what,
What's driving this?
what's driving
Yeah.
the
That was my
adjustment?
question too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I
Mr.
can only
Chairman,
speak
think
to
I
my-
can- I think I can help out, that at the last discussion we had about a lawsuit settlement, the discussion with the county executive, the county attorney, and myself, we discussed the fact that the limits that have been set have been in place for many, many years. And obviously with inflation, especially in attorney's fees and so forth, we felt it was appropriate to increase the limits without any specific details. And then I believe the county attorney's office brought forth this specific recommendation as to how they could be increased with the approval of the legislature.
I mean, personally, given these limits and given the use of 3 legislatures or 5 legislators, I'm okay with this. Again, just my commercial experience, I tend to be against the rush to settle all lawsuits. There are kinds of lawsuits you want to litigate from day one, and there are other kinds of lawsuits you don't, and it depends. So making it easy to settle and move on is generally not something I like to do, but given the way this is laid out, the monies, and that's okay with me.
And, Mr. Chairman, I would just support what Legislator Johnson just indicated, that before this gets to a committee, it is reviewed by the county attorney, the county executive, and myself. And my favorite phrase when first presented with a lawsuit settlement is 4640 or fight. I don't want to rush to a settlement prematurely. And so there have been a significant number of cases where I have said, or we have said, no, let's not settle this one at this point. Let's continue to the process and see if we can come to a resolution.
I mean, for instance, Sears and Roebuck always would litigate every single slip and fall, because they knew statistically that 70% of them were bogus, and so they wanted the trial bar to understand that there were going to be no settlements here, so don't even try it. And it was a very statistically smart decision.
I'd just comment that it's important that we are discussing this as sitting on, bodies of government throughout my life. Sometimes you find out about a settlement or a case or some situation after the fact, and you wonder, should, as a member of the committee or the board or whatever you're serving on, should you have known about that prior? Or sometimes a member of the public may know some sort of information, or somehow you wonder how a channel knows, and sometimes where you think that you feel that you should have heard about that in some other way. Now, this says that some during, depending on the amounts, who's going to be part of this. And I also have come to realize in serving, I don't need to know about every situation or every problem, because that could be overwhelming and I don't need to know anyway. But in this sense, I would understand that it is being thoroughly checked by some of the body, which I'm okay with. Whether I'm part of that or not, I know that at least the process is as correct as it can be. And so if some people know about it, I've myself have taken part of some of these in the sense that you were there, you were a part of the body, and can you sit in on this explanation of these? And so it isn't necessarily sometimes hand-picked. It's a matter of convenience. You're there for another purpose, but I think that, in that instance, the other part of the legislature would approve, yes. There are 3 elected of legislators, they reviewed it, and if they had raised concern, they would have decided otherwise. So, I see the formalities and the reasons, and I think I'm okay with the adjustments and the amounts, so. Questions, comments, recommendations?
You say recommendation?
If you want to
Recommend we
recommend.
move forward.
Sounds good. We will close discussion on that local law introductory and move into our next local law introductory, 7-26. And that is a local law amending the Chautauqua County Charter to eliminate annual cost of living adjustments for county legislators.
And I guess I can speak to that or answer any questions. First, I'm not opposed to, fair compensation for public officials, but I just think that salary increases should be debated openly and approved publicly rather than built into the law permanently. I think if we believe if we can justify a pay increase, then we should do that transparently. And I don't think that automatic annual raises are fair to our county residents, many of whom do not receive guaranteed increases in their own pay. So I think raises should be evaluated, yearly based on economic conditions, county finances, and circumstances facing our taxpayers. So that's some of the reasons behind this.
And I'll take the other side. Well, I don't disagree with that. I'm enough of a mathematician to know that, I am always for dealing in what I call real money as opposed to inflation money. Perhaps that's because I've spent a lot of time working in places where inflation rates were 20, 30, 40%. And so indexing things to the consumer price index, make sure that we're dealing in real money all the time, as opposed to cutting this or that pay on automatic pilot in real money. So we went across this issue a couple of sessions ago. I think it was with the break we give veterans on property taxes, which I think I proposed, and we accepted a compromise that had an increase based on CPI to keep their benefits constant in real terms. And the same principle applies here. I agree that we don't give people real increases without considering it, but I don't want to give them real cuts without considering that either. So to me, it's a math and inflation issue, and I vote for real money, not nominal money.
Any other questions or comments regarding the local law introductory?
I think it's also important to obviously note that, along with the raises that we've implemented, the work that was done by a review commission and the recommendations it's brought, and we've made this comment before, of why do we continue to seek volunteers for commissions to dedicate many hours and months and time to give us data and a recommendation, to take the recommendation and make up our own nonsense with it anyway. The Democrats have slandered this 67% raise that the legislature got, but fails to recognize that that was 22 years prior before this legislature was ever considered for, I guess, an evaluation, if you will. And, Fred and I, Legislator Johnson, had discussed this prior, that a cost of living adjustment isn't necessarily a raise, but a way to stay steady. And I agree in the aspect of we as legislators, but it's not we who sit here. It is not Republicans or Democrats. It is the position of what we feel this position's worth and what it should be fair. And I think with the cost of living adjustment built into this, it should allow us to not go back to where we were 3 years ago with being so far behind from other towns and municipalities, or I should say counties, and to allow a salary review commission to put their time in other places next time so that this doesn't get fallen behind. Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, we're going to get to this issue in another one here coming up, but just to say that in a different way, I support market analysis, nonpartisan market analysis-based compensation policies. And that's not really what's involved here. This is just cost of living, but these salary increases came from a market-based analysis. And whether it's legislators or union contracts or administrative salaries, we need always to be guided by the real-world marketplace for those jobs. And so we'll all do better long-term if we run the business that way.
I agree with your last statement. I think that's important to say that the salary is based on the real factor of the market. And in the sense that it's the ability of those that are willing to raise their hand and want to participate in county government and it not be a large financial burden for them to do so. Each individual household is comprised of a little different structure in sense of their ability to serve, in sense of a commitment, and financial commitment is large enough as it is to decide to serve. So I think having a fair salary is in line as well. And who can debate what is fair? Well, I think that you can leave that up to the committee in which did the research and base it off of the recommendation. So,
And I forgot to mention, Mr. Chairman, but now 3 meetings ago, we went through and this is kind of separate, but this committee went through a series on looking at salary ranges. And we, at that time, came to the conclusion that we wanted to have a session with the head of HR as to, are those ranges appropriate? How do we get them? How long have they been there? Because they seemed very broad. And she agreed to come back to us, but I don't think we have booked that appointment with her, have we?
So outside of that recommendation or ask in that nature, we've going to have that on the docket in the upcoming future. We had some meetings to do a little preliminary research and findings before we brought that back to the body. And so we had all of our details in line. Last month, earlier this month, we had a meeting regarding that, and just was not effective to be able to have that in a timely manner for this particular meeting, so it is on the docket for next month. So,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the HR director is here this morning and was prepared to discuss this if the committee wished to.
okay. I wouldn't necessarily do it at this particular juncture of the meeting. So,
Okay.
I would recommend that if that's a possibility, then your answer may be sooner than I originally intended as well.
I would
So,
prefer personally to be well prepared on the agenda for next meeting rather than to do it on the fly today.
It's good.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, getting back to this, and maybe I'm just, I don't know, different, but when I was asked to serve, I didn't ask what do legislators make and how does that compare with other counties. I had no idea. I said, sure, I'll do this. It's about public service. You know, as I was asked to, I don't know, serve on the church vestry. I didn't say, oh gosh, do they get paid? That's going to take some of my time. That's just how I am. I guess I don't see things as maybe a man of business does.
No,
I went into public schools. I didn't ask, you know, when I got hired at Frewsburg, what do the teachers at other schools make?
No,
got my pay, and I went, well, if I could, a little
Mhm.
more money would be a good thing, but I love this job, and I
As
don't
an
know, that's how
individual,
I look at it, but.
as an individual, I agree with you entirely, and I'm in exactly in the same boat. However, we don't just represent ourselves, you and I, who would,
Yeah.
if it was just the two of us, fine. We
Mhm.
represent an institution that goes forward with policies and procedures that make sense in the economic world we live in.
Yeah, and we were making, well, I went from a city councilman making 6,000 to a county legislator making 9, and then I went up to 15, and then I think we offered a compromise of somewhere in between too, which seemed, reasonable. But that was voted down.
Which that compromise then again was a number that was pulled out of the sky after a
Yeah.
review commission gave us a recommendation.
I don't think it was pulled out of the sky. I think it was when it was part of that negotiations or talking about it, and we came up with whatever, it was 12 or,
It's
Well-
just, it's just a matter of principle and process to me.
I agree.
Mhm.
I don't think any of us are here for the financial gain, but it is still a position. When I was on the town board, I asked to not take a salary, and unfortunately, it's a position that's paid, and I had to take it and was told I can donate it wherever I would like to after that, so you do. How you donate this salary is great. We talked last year about, when the government was shut down at the federal level, whether you donate it to a food bank or whatever you'd like to do is our personal, I guess, decision,
Right.
but.
Well,
Now, Mr. Nelson, being a good Democrat, is really not into kind of regressive income tax policies and that kind of thing. And when you don't compensate people relatively close to market, you tend to disproportionately benefit, for lack of a better example, people like me, to whom that kind of compensation is less important than the mission. And you tend to exclude people whose time is limited and valuable. So, that kind of cuts it, to not have positions as a matter of policy more or less at market or below market is regressive.
Any other comments or questions today regarding this local law? I'm sure we'll have some more discussion, I would imagine, next Wednesday.
yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Not hearing any, we'll move on to our next proposed local law, which is number 5. It's on the agenda today. It's local law introductory 826. It's a local law reducing the salary for the county clerk. Is the sponsor here today to discuss this? Okay.
I mean, I have no other comment than I'll vote against this.
Well, we don't have any ability to ask the sponsor of questions, so not seeing that, we'll move on to our resolutions. First proposed resolution today is number 6. It's authorizing extension of lease agreement for Department of Planning and Development at the BWB Center in Jamestown.
Good morning, Nate Aldrich, Economic Development Coordinator. This one's pretty straightforward. We've already been in our Jamestown office, the BWB Center, for 10 years. This is simply a 2-year extension at the exact same terms.
Questions, comments regarding the lease agreement?
0% inflation, good thing.
They must like you guys down there, or they charge you too much to begin with, and now
I
they're
wasn't gonna
feeling
say that,
guilty.
but
I don't know. Good job. Not hearing any other questions or comments. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? It is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next proposed resolution is number 7. It's amend 2026 capital budget South and Center Stock Lake Sewer District.
Good morning. Thomas Walsh, Director of South and Center Sewer District. Again, this is also pretty straightforward. This is to amend the 2026 budget for a capital purchase of 2 automated bar screens that will be fit in the Lakewood pump station. These automated bar screens are basically, they remove non-biological material from the waste stream. This material is removed and improves the efficiency or ensures the efficiency of these pumps. Lakewood Pump Station, like I said, is the largest pump station in the South and Center Sewer District, moving anywhere from 500,000 to 1 million gallons a day. So this will assure efficiency. Also, by utilizing this product, it does reduce the contact of the employees. They no longer rake the bar screen or have to handle it as much as they would with the automation.
So in layman terms, it's basically a bar that once it gets full of things, it'll automatically dump and then go back into position.
It does,
to collect.
and having an automated, it reduces the size of the screening.
Mhm.
So you can get right down to cigarette butts will
Yep.
actually be screened out.
Okay.
We actually had the opportunity to go to Pennsylvania, where actually they have this in service, and they've had it in service for a year, and it's working very well. So we're very excited about purchasing this unit to proceed.
Very glitchy. You hate to limit yourself to this.
No, that's
computer
and,
system.
you know, and these products have been on them. We've seen these products, and we've kind of been pretty patient. 2015, we bought a bar screen that goes at the head of the wastewater works. And there has been some engineering to do what they have done with this product. And we've been watching them. Some of the reviews have not been good. Until this product came out, we heard good things about it. I spoke to a couple of vendors and the people that purchased it. And Butler was the closest one, so we went down and I spoke to the employees there, and it's been problem-free, because we don't want to purchase problems. So they've been very happy with the product. And it's very, to be honest with you, it's almost minimal maintenance. It's like one grease shot once every 6 months, and
Sure.
it just continues to work. So, yeah, we're pretty excited about such product.
What if there's no power?
Then it just goes, if no power, then it just goes up, and then it would overflow to another area.
Yeah.
But then we have emergency generator power.
Understood.
So then it would kick on. So if we lose power, the bar screen's not the biggest part of our problem.
You got other pump issues. Yeah.
We have pump
understand,
issues.
but- Understand. But,
We have generator issues, so yeah,
yeah.
we have a portable generator that we could pull in if that generator failed, so we are equipped. Yep.
Good.
Okay.
No, I mean, I've run across this kind of thing on a micro level in winery filtration and a macro level on irrigation water filtration. So if you've done what you've done, great. My question is, what do we mean fund balance? Can somebody help me with you? What fund is this?
That's
How
the
does that
sewer
work?
district fund balance.
And we use fund balance as opposed to a budget allocation, why?
Because this exceeds the amount of the approved budget. So the only source of funds to do this is fund balance.
And so what we're saying is this is not a rainy day item, but rather a, quote, surprise opportunity we want to take now rather than next year.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so it's good enough to make that turn.
Yes, that was the decision of the sewer district board, yes.
Okay. So I'm okay with it, just as long as I understand what,
Certainly.
you know, why we're not just doing it in the normal budget cycle as opposed to
Yep.
fund balance.
And just to elaborate a little more on that question in sense of what is the, how does the fund balance stand in sense of its amount? In sense that, we aren't going to hurt the ability, if you have another unexpected cost and we have zero fund balance, we're not putting ourselves in that position. I'm assuming that we must have a fair amount of fund balance
We do,
reserves.
I
so
can't give you the exact numbers, but we did review it, and it is budgeted. We have the funds
Plenty
to
of
do it.
funds,
Yep.
so,
Because-
good.
Because I'm reminded of the presentation Kitty gave us a couple of cycles ago about when you add all the fund balances on top of the general fund balance, we've got, as a county, tens of millions of dollars on average of taxpayer money that we, year after year after year, don't touch.
Mhm.
That taxpayers have given us, And the taxpayers would kind of be real happy to have it on in their bank balances as opposed to ours. But when you add them all together, I mean, I thought the number we came up with when she had that graph of the low point each year was something like $60 million of all fund balances together. That is taxpayer money sitting there just in case.
Understood.
Mr. Chairman, as a member of the Sewer District Board, I can give you a little foreshadowing that the Sewer District will be holding public hearings in the near future about rate increases, because the Sewer District users have enjoyed flat user rates for many, many years as we have been pulling down the fund balance, and it's now reaching the point where in the long term that can no longer be continued. So we are proposing user rate increases. Not dramatic, not substantial, but enough to maintain an adequate fund balance.
And that's an important statement, because through all faucets of government, it's ascertaining that proper fund balance is important. You can utilize it to spend down and to offset rate increases, which it sounds like the board has done over the years, but it's getting to that point where now if you continue down that same path, you will have zero fund balance. And so you're gonna be proactive, have a little bit of an increase, cover some, if you will, keep up with the times of current expenses in the sense of their inflated rate, pump truck or system maintenance and things of that nature was less money years ago, and so,
The
unfortunately,
cost of
everything's
business
getting.
has definitely gone up.
Yeah,
so.
and, and it's important that the department do things as efficiently as they can, and this is an efficiency thing. It's gonna help hopefully protect equipment down the chain. It is going to help eliminate an employee's
Messy job.
maintaining this and doing this
Yeah.
periodically, so it'll free them up to maybe do other things that really should have a little more time dedicated to.
The
so,
term emergency is the worst term for anybody's budget.
yeah.
So installing or having machinery like this that protects the overall machinery is vital to our success, is to make sure we ensure service to the customers.
Well, and there is a safety aspect to this as well, correct?
Absolutely.
With no
'Cause
longer
we're-
having them
we're-
raking it out?
Yes, the actual in contact is reduced
I believe,
significantly.
I believe Chairman Shagnon said the other day, in theory, it's going to help on our workers' comp as well at the end of the year.
Certainly, well,
Theory.
there's always that value.
That
we're-
liability as well.
It's a risk factor, for sure.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, I think I should just point out that this resolution was amended in public facilities because the last line, which establishes and increases the revenue account, is not necessary. So that whole section was stricken to increase the revenue account and the dollar amount. That's not necessary.
Okay. So, not hearing any other comments or questions, we will be voting, if you will, on the amended version with that last line stricken. So, if anybody objects to that, we will move forward with a vote. All those in favor of the amended version, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is carried. Thank you. Next proposed resolution today is number 8, which is to authorize agreement between Chautauqua County and Schultz Air Shows LLC for Air Boss services for the 2027 Chautauqua County Air Show at Chautauqua County Jamestown Airport.
Good morning, all. John McAmer, Deputy Director of Public Facilities Airports. Yes, so the first resolution you have here is for authorizing Schultz Air Shows for our 2027 planned air show at Jamestown. Schultz has a long resume, significant experience. They've performed around 750 events since 1994. They would bring a team of 5 to 6 individuals for a number of days to include prior to the show, during the show, and then after the show to support regulatory compliance of the show, site safety planning and assessment, air show ops and execution, and coordination and advisory support amongst other important safety aspects of the show. The term payment would be no more than $18,000. It would likely be less than that. I would estimate around maybe about $14,000. And as you may recall, we were able to secure the occupancy tax grant of $15,000 to go towards payment of the air boss and the air show.
Air shows are great things.
Yeah, we're
Just-
excited.
Oh,
Mr. Null?
Mr. Chairman, yeah, just as a, I guess, question about safety, do they run through the whole program or the day or two before? Do they, I mean, is it all,
Yeah,
you don't want anything to go wrong, obviously.
absolutely, yeah, great question. So yeah, traditionally, there's a practice event, so we're thinking of a Saturday show, and so there'd be a practice event likely Friday evening before the show.
Okay.
Within the budget for the air show, is there anything here for handouts or anything that is representing Chautauqua County logos, labels, things of that nature? Sometimes there's things at the events in the sense that there's a handout or a patronage of a cup or a shirt or something, right? Anything like that?
Yeah, so we've been putting some time into our budget planning, of course, because that's critical to success for a new show. And yes, so there would be definitely branding opportunities, marketing opportunities for our sponsors of the show, as well, as a great opportunity to showcase the county airport at Jamestown. So yes, we have promotional materials budgeted, marketing, print, radio, television, marketing, as well as, sponsor banners, announcements, things like that throughout the show.
Okay.
Just to note, Mr. Chairman, this is not the budget for the air show. This is just the contract with the company to provide the services to us.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okaying this contract opens the door for all that other stuff that we're gonna be
Yeah.
putting into too. So, it's an important part of that puzzle, so.
Yes.
As sitting on as a body, as I've alluded to in the past, this is one of those after the fact things that said, you approved a budget that someone all of a sudden now we are handing out thousands of T-shirts, right? And what, so those are things that I make aware before we move forward with some of these things, which I'm okay with. We want to promote the airport, so.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate that.
I want to make sure I get mine. Sorry.
Yeah.
We got
I
one from
want
the Eclipse.
promotional items with Dalton's picture on them, that's what I want.
As the second in
Top
charge.
seller, top seller.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Not hearing any. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is carried. Thank you. Next proposed resolution number 9 is authorized ground and taxiway lease with Barron North G58 LLC, subsidiary of Accent Stripe at Chautauqua County Dunkirk Airport.
So this is a renewal of the lease that we've had with formerly Accent Stripe, now Barron North G58 LLC at the Dunkirk Airport since 1996. Represents approximately about an acre of land and a taxiway from that portion of the airport out to the runway, or the primary taxiway adjacent to the runway, I should say. It includes a 5-year term with 2 additional 5-year renewal options and payment of $2,000 annually at a 3% increase annually.
Who is, Accent Stripe Barron North? That's a particular individual, isn't it?
That's set up as an LLC.
Yeah, I know.
So the structure of that, I can't say for certain on that. I mean, Accent Stripe and Barron North LLC,
Are the same thing.
yes.
I'm just, before your time, but I'm vaguely remembering that they were, I think it was these people were strongly involved in causing us to lengthen that main runway by 500 feet back 10 or so years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I'm aware of the extension that was prior to my time, and I believe it was extended for jet usage,
Right.
you know, as a reason for that.
And there was a jet
So-
basing issue kind of behind that, and I think it was these people.
Yeah, I don't know if it would be exclusive to that. I mean,
Of
I
course
can't tie I don't think it's fair to tie the extension to, you know, one company. And, you know, fortunately, the airport has benefited. It's currently receiving considerable jet traffic
Sure.
from multiple companies, you know, Purina, Wells Ice Cream. They're flying in 2 jets weekly. You know, it's my understanding that they're, you know, staying in the community locally, and, you know, driving that. So the extension, certainly, I think was tied to the interest and the need to allow for, additional jet traffic, larger jet traffic.
You know, I think the issue was larger. Corporate jets under instrument conditions, that grows. And
Yeah.
that's way back when. What raised my eyebrows is, wait a minute, there's a pretty specific, you know, kind of corporate jet that was involved, but that's history.
Any other current questions or comments?
Yes. Well, it's kind of, when you're doing stuff like this, you want to know who you're doing business with, really.
Agreed. And a history is important to establish the future moving forward. We'll have a new contract here that is with this certain LLC, so we want to make sure it's a good company to do business with as well.
Mhm.
So,
Certainly.
Unrelated to this resolution, but with the news of Congressman Lang released $5.7 million for the Jamestown Airport, is that tagged with the runway project that we're in the process of approving or out to bid right now?
Yes, so that construction has been approved. That was last month.
Yep.
And we've already bid that project. The bid's been awarded, and that's where the figure comes for that and at Jamestown. So we're excited. You know, we put considerable work into the design with support from our consultant team and the design of that runway. So we'll look to start construction in the spring of 2027.
Okay.
Yep. Good question.
I had thought that that's what those funds were going to, but I wasn't quite sure, and,
Yep.
and it'll be a nice improvement to show off for our air show.
Yes.
other questions or comments? Not hearing any. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is carried. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Next proposed resolution today, number 10, is amend the 2026 capital budget for the replacement of fire destroyed equipment, DPF, the road machinery.
Good morning. Drew Rogers, Deputy Director of Public Facilities Engineering. This February, we lost a plow truck due to an electrical fire, and the claim went through insurance, and this resolution is to accept that insurance payout from that accident and put that towards a replacement truck.
Questions, comments regarding the resolution?
So I think we did talk about this in public facilities, but that won't pay, excuse me, for the total cost of a new truck.
Right.
Correct.
Right, that'll pay almost 2/3. So the difference that we would need from our capital large equipment budget would be just over 130,000 for the full cost of the new truck.
Is that cost based, the difference based upon the depreciation of the insured amount, or certain equipment wasn't covered under the insurance? What was the difference? What was the explanation for the difference?
I don't fully know, how the insurance determined the overall cost. My guess would be just the age of the vehicle at the time. I believe this particular unit was getting close to needing replacement as it was. So it could just be what they determined value to be of the equipment at that time.
I think, didn't Tim say it was like 12 years old?
Something like that.
Yeah, I
12
do
or
know it was
2012.
coming up on,
So they
as-
probably value it what it's
yeah.
worth,
Yep,
Yeah.
sure.
not what we need to replace.
Well, right, yeah, yeah.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? It is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next proposed resolution today is 11, is the distribution of mortgage taxes.
Good morning. Todd Button, First Deputy Director of Finance and Treasury. Here filling in for, I think Kim Moline usually presents this on behalf of property tax. This is a standard semi-annual distribution of mortgage tax collected through the county clerk's office and approved by the state of New York to the municipalities for their share of that tax.
Questions, comments regarding this resolution? Pierre's got one.
Mr. Chairman, as I typically like to point out, I compared this resolution to the similar resolution from 1 year ago, covering the same time period. And this resolution in total reflects an increase in the mortgage tax of 26%. The town's increase is 27%. The villages are increasing 5%, and the cities are increasing 33%.
So what mathematically drives that? Is this just the function of the mortgage tax collected in each municipality?
The mortgage tax in total is 1.25%. One quarter of that, 0.25%, goes directly to New York State Sunny Mae. 0.5 or 0.5% is retained by the county, and the other 0.5% is paid out to the municipalities here on the resolution. As the mortgage tax is collected through the county clerk's office, it is recorded and tracked based on the towns that are involved. However, villages get their share based on an allocation of assessed valuation within the village as their percentage of the town's valuation. So that calculation is done through the property tax department.
But otherwise, the allocation.
Otherwise, it's, if you
Function of mortgages
spend
issued.
$100,000 on a house in Jamestown or Dunkirk or the town of whatever, that 1.25% is calculated on that mortgage, and it is tracked by those municipalities. But because of the sharing with the villages involved, we do a separate sub-allocation out of that.
No, thank you for that, but then that means that the approved mortgages in the cities went up 33% year on year. Is that right?
Yes.
That's quite something.
Well, and this is a unknown amount in the beginning of the year, because you can only base it off of historical amounts, and who knows what new mortgages will be brought to the table this year, what properties will be sold, what new mortgages will be ascertained. So, the growth shows that our mortgage market didn't slow down. Doesn't necessarily, some people remortgage. I'm not sure if someone refinances or ascertains a new mortgage, is that liable to, or is it just a transaction of a new property? So
I believe anything that's, whether it's a new mortgage or a refinancing mortgage, it's taxed.
it's taxed.
Okay.
So, it shows that you know, our housing market's still strong, and our, you know, people are still buying and selling houses, and this also reflects some of the work and the other decisions that we've made in sense of amount of mortgage tax that is collected by showing that the amount that we chose didn't slow down this market any. People are still buying houses, so. Questions, comments?
So I'm just trying to understand this. So this is the amount that we're paying back to the municipalities.
Correct.
It's not the total amount of
No, this represents
the tax collected.
Represent 0.5.
0.5% of the total 1.25% that is collected.
Okay. And Pierre, you said that in the cities, this went up
33.
substantially.
Yes,
Yeah,
33%.
okay. Mhm.
And just
I
if I may
think-
make a snide political correct to my dear Democratic friend, Mr. Nelson, this is a regressive tax. Because if you're wealthy and you buy the $1 million house with cash, you don't pay this. But if you're strapped enough that you have to buy your $100,000 house with a mortgage, you do pay it.
Yeah.
That's why I bought mine cash.
There you go.
Well, I'm not able to do that, but I just had two sons that bought houses in Jamestown that
Added to
they
that.
never even
someday.
came into, and they never even considered the mortgage tax when purchasing the house,
Well,
but there is a small inventory of houses that you'd want to buy in Jamestown, unless you really want to fix them up. And
Well, that is why
You know.
Louis XIV's tax guy, Mr. Talleyrand, said that the art of taxation is similar to plucking a geese to get the maximum amount of feathers with the minimum amount of hissing. Therefore, the more you can hide a tax, the better.
It's not hidden because it's right on the paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
When
Yeah,
you
but-
sign a house,
Right. Oh,
I
yeah.
know, yesterday I signed a contract, and yesterday it cost me $1,100, so I'm a contributor to
Thank you.
next
Yeah.
year's
Thank you very much.
calculation.
We appreciate it.
We do.
Any other questions or comments?
Did you get a T-shirt for doing that?
I did not.
With my face on it?
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, is carried. Next proposed resolution, number 12, is reallocating salary grade for motor vehicles administrator.
Good morning, gentlemen. I'm County Clerk Greg Carlson. I want to take time to give a little background to this so that it's not just a resolution in and of itself, but there's some understanding as to why. So in the County Clerk's office, we oversee the Department of Motor Vehicles, the Clerk's office, and Weights and Measures. In the Clerk's office and a little bit in Weights and Measures, we have some autonomy. That means some ability to dictate how we do things locally, independent of everyone else. We do not have that luxury in the DMV. Everything that we do in the DMV is regulated and dictated by the state of New York. Everything from the fees to the retention. So if you go back in time to December, we had to close our DMVs in Mayville for 2 days per month due to staffing. So when I took over, that was one of my top priorities, was making sure that something like that wouldn't happen again. In doing so, I had to evaluate how our DMVs ran and the positions that we had within the DMVs. So the requirements from the state had changed quite dramatically. Combination of different things, the Real ID law, update of the new software to drives. And with the new software update, things became a lot more restrictive, meaning the autonomy for the base level, entry level motor vehicles representative became very restricted. And this was in response mostly to DMVs that were state run, not county run, in Albany County in New York City, having a lot of problems, quid pro quos, people doing things that were not in accordance with the law. So they said, hey, we need to restrict this. So in doing so, I wanted to evaluate every position and look at how we could meet the state requirement and provide all the services we need to provide without adding staff. because the big issue in December was staffing. So we adjusted some of the positions and what they did, but I don't do anything without first looking for savings in other places. So if you'll notice with this resolution, there's no change to the budget because this is budget neutral. Not only is it budget neutral, it's better than budget neutral, and let me explain why. So right away, we identified, and I'm going to use nice round numbers, right? So just for the purpose of math. Personnel costs. So I'm not talking about salary, I'm talking about salary combined with benefits. Right out the gate, we found about $27,000 in savings there, but I'm going to call it $25,000 just so we can use nice round numbers. Addition to that, our plates, we started destroying the plates that day. So the very same day that someone surrenders a plate, we destroy that plate. Those plates used to go to landfill. Those plates no longer go to landfill. So the destroyed and invalidated plates now go to Weitzman's, for which we receive revenue for scrap metal. This comes out to about $10,000, but for the purpose of this, I'll underfigure, I'll call it $8,000 in revenue. So we're at about $33,000 of savings right now. And then the topic that we just talked about, which is mortgage tax retention. So there has been a dramatic increase in mortgage tax distribution because there has been increased activity. Mostly since COVID, what has happened is people are out buying and selling houses again, combined with the interest rates have gone down a little bit. So we're putting out about another $400,000, but we never changed our mortgage tax retention. So we have been charging the same fee for many years, even though the cost to the county and the distribution has gone up. But I didn't want to unduly affect the municipality, so I did a very mild or very minor adjustment to our mortgage tax retention, which gave us about $5,000 of revenue. So for the $400,000 in addition that we put out. So I'm at about $38,000 in savings or revenue. So the changes that I have made, the first was creation of the senior DMV representative position. That was about $7,700 split over 5 people. $6,200 for additional processing computers, so we didn't have to close the cashier window and we could do dealer transactions and mail-ins. And then this position right here, which would be a change in job responsibility, not just a change in salary, of about $2,300. So we're at $16,200 to improve operations at the DMV and to adjust the manning that we have so that we can better serve the public without adding staff. Because even hiring an entry-level motor vehicle representative is a $40,000 salary and then anywhere between $17,000 and $27,000 in benefits depending upon marital status and how many dependents they have. So for the roughly $38,000 of savings and or revenue that we have found, we've used $16,200 to improve our DMVs. As far as personnel changes going, need to go, there would be no more. So creation of the senior DMV motor vehicle representative and then accounting for the increased responsibilities of the DMV administrator. There are no further changes. We're not going to add staff. We don't need to change any other positions to meet state requirements. So even though this is an increase to the grade for the DMV administrator, which would come out to just under $2,300 a year. If it's approved, it'll be about $1,146.60 for the remainder of 2026. There is no corresponding change in the budget because all of these changes are budget neutral and for the purpose of meeting state requirements and providing a better service to the customer, not for growing government. So with all that in mind, are there any questions?
Yes, sir. Go ahead,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Please.
So, in terms of substance,
Right.
I greatly appreciate your focus on detail, granularity, and thrift. A couple of questions on principle.
Sure.
Process. I see it's a CSEA kind of thing.
Correct.
And the last whereas said, we met with the president of CSEA and approved the recommended grade change below. Now, that signals to me that you're asking for the legislature's rubber stamp. And that throws off a big red flag at me. And where I got sensitive to this was way back in our budget times, when for the first time we stumbled across a whole series of one-off union increases that we had been negotiated and agreed, that all of a sudden we were asked to fund without being, as a legislature, consulted up front. That didn't sit well. So in your process of speaking to the CSEA and coming to this agreement, is it clear that that quote-unquote agreement is contingent on the legislature's approval?
Okay, so yes, and just to be clear, the reallocation isn't a change. Like, for example, it's the grade and the steps are not changing as far as for everyone. It's based on the responsibilities of the position have increased.
I understand, and
Yeah,
again,
right.
I'm not at all criticizing the technicalities of what, in fact, it is you want to do.
Right.
But what I'm trying to get at in a broader sense is, when we as a county sit down with the union especially, and even before we get into negotiating, if we're going to come back to the legislature for money, the legislature needs to be involved up front in terms of what's our game plan and what are we playing for, as opposed to being, as we were at the last budget cycle, hit with oh, we've agreed this and now we got to do it or we're going to have a big problem. So, again, what you're doing in terms of cost savings and operations, great. There you go. Hey, maybe I get some help there, because it's really an HR. Yeah, you're
Good
right.
morning.
Thank you. You know where I'm going.
I do, yes. Debbie Mikowski, Director of Human Resources. To specifically answer your question, the last whereas is referring to the reallocation committee, which is written into CSEA 6300's contract. So the process when these situations arise, it's usually the department head. They initiate it. It can be initiated by the employee as well. It can come from, both ways. Once that request is formalized with justification, then it goes to the reallocation committee, which includes the county executive, myself, and the president of whichever union it is. As long as we have a consensus among that group of three, then it goes for legislative approval. If there's no consensus, it stops.
So, thank you for that. And that's kind of how I assumed it worked, but it's that last bit that this particular one here is a very small example, right? So, it's not an issue of this one specifically. But what I'm used to, again, in private sector union negotiations, is the people controlling the money, the taxpayers' money in this case, have visibility and say as to what we're getting into before we get into it and before we get people's hopes up.
Understood. So I think Legislator Johnson's question could be re-asked in sense of how is it established, who's at that table? What are the parameters of how that decision is made? And is that a local law that has determined those three individuals at the table, or is that, where is that?
It's written into their contract. So within the union contract, it defines how a reallocation request is handled, and it defines
Who's reviewing it?
Who represents the reallocation committee.
Okay.
Now, to be fair, the union contracts do not dictate what title is graded at what grade number.
Sure, and I'm willing to let that, but it's more what we got into in the budget last time, which was, as we were looking at our overall budget, one of the big nuts was this one-time cost catch-up up front. And that was a bunch of money.
So a recommendation that I would maybe have you consider would be that in the next round of negotiating, if it was so
decision of your responses that were also the legislature, that you would have them try to bargain for an additional seat at the table, being a legislator.
Or some, I mean, again, it's just the process of, we are the.
That's what you're,
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
you're wishing, so.
Something
Mr.
like that.
Chairman, would you
The-
wanna?
Yeah.
The legislature is barred from participating in negotiation.
Okay, so there's your answer, Fred.
Well,
So it
then,
can't be.
how does the legislature tell the executive what his limits are?
What our discussion here today gives you that ultimate right where if you so choose.
You could say no.
You can vote no.
All right, and that's in a broader labor relations kind of thing, and you know where I'm coming from. By the time you've gone through all this negotiation with the union, a strong expectation has been created. And for the legislature to then come down and go, excuse me, no, is a really, bomb of a thing to do.
Right.
And it is much better to get the funders, who are us, in the process early, so we don't get you in the jam of having to go back and say, you know what, the legislature said no.
But a counterpoint is everyone involved in the reallocation committee understands that, yes, we can all vote yes, but ultimate decision is the 19 legislative votes.
Yeah. And-
Mr.
yep.
Chairman, I think what legislator Johnson is indicating is not in this particular resolution,
Exactly.
but in the labor negotiations, contract negotiations. He is suggesting that it could be helpful if the legislature shared with the executive and the HR director what our expectations are for the result of that contract before contract negotiations begin.
Yeah.
Much
How'd I
better.
do?
For
Perfect.
overall,
Much better said.
yeah.
Well, because could we have, I guess, an internal committee to meet with HR director and county executive before those discussions take place with the union reps?
I think if it's to set expectations going into negotiations, absolutely.
'Cause then we'd still be
Where-
barred
where it
from-
gets- Where it gets a little sticky is us in the middle of contract negotiations
Can't.
relaying
Yeah.
back, like, we can't break
No,
that.
I agree.
Negotiation agreement.
Well, I think even when I think it was I don't remember which contract it was last year, but, it kind of came in late, last minute negotiations, and it got brought to us on the table and said, here it is, and,
Yeah,
what kind of
that-
choice do we have at that point?
No.
We say yes and we move on, and we kind of faced a little bit of the backlash later of finding out that it wasn't always in the best employee's interest. I think it was the sheriff's department, if I'm recollecting. It was the undersheriffs ended up taking on more responsibilities for the same pay as the regular sheriffs, and obviously we're still seeing that. No offense to anybody in the negotiations, but if we sat there and said at that point that we should look at this before we walk into that room, yes, the legislature at that point is still barred from the discussion, but then we're not coming back and trying to do budget amendments and all of that because we're obviously still seeing that situation unfold, and the sheriff's department's handled that very well, and thank you to the sheriff in the back of the room. But I think that's a good example as to, I think, kind of what Mr. Johnson's getting at is.
Well, that's a good, very granular example, but I'm much more, as Chairman Chagnon said, into giving the, negotiating team parameters that basically say, we who represent the taxpayers are telling you that this is your limit.
I agree.
Understood.
Understood. So I think is a point of order of discussion around, not necessarily this particular resolution, but in general. This particular resolution sparked the conversation. As we've determined, we cannot, as legislators, sit on any sort of committee of this nature.
Nor do we want to.
Nor do we want to. I wanted to make that clear. So, a way that we can participate is at the beginning stages of this, and I think that it is something that we can discuss and maybe set up a procedure moving forward with future negotiations or future expectations of contract changes or salary changes or schedules to add that extra layer in so that
we don't continue to have this sort of a situation arise through the questioning backwards. So I think if we can establish some sort of a thing, I'll task the chairman to maybe figure out a procedure and maybe report back to the committee in sense of how we establish this, so.
I will work with the HR director and establishing that procedure, and I will report back to the committee.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Now, back to this one. And you said, Mr. Carlton, you said something that now tweaked my interest based on our last discussion, which was the mortgage tax allocation
Mortgage tax retention.
retention. So, I may have not understood, but to me, I thought the mortgage tax that went to the towns was formulaic.
Yeah,
But it says like this, what you said seems to me like you were able to put your order in and make an adjustment to that in I guess, for the purposes of being generous to the towns. So
Well-
that means it's not formulaic, there's some discretion, and that kind of was news to me.
it's not, I don't have discretion to do it arbitrarily. The state, right, so it'd be easier if you come to the office and I could lay it all out for you and show you the difference. So yes, some of the things are formulaic. Some of the things we go through the state every year. So there is a mortgage tax retention. So basically, we're doing something for the state. So the county clerk's office is breaking out all of that money. The county retains a certain amount, not the county clerk's office.
I understand.
The county retains a certain amount. We send a certain amount to the municipalities, to the villages, to the towns, whatever, and we send a certain amount to the state.
Got it, that's all
Okay.
formula, as I
So
understand.
the state, in addition to that, has something called mortgage tax retention that goes back to the counties for the service. It has to be approved by the state. So in other words, the state is saying, for you sending us all of this money to help offset your cost as far as like your employees, so on and so forth.
So it's a kickback of the kickback.
Correct. I mean, I didn't establish the mortgage tax. Now, it had not changed in many, 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 many years, the amount, right? However, our cost of operating has increased many times since then. So when I did the mortgage tax retention from the state, I talked to the person from the state. I said, what is this? Said, hasn't been adjusted in many years. He said, if you want to adjust it, we'll see if it can be approved. So I did a minor adjustment, not even close to the amount of cost, and the state approved it, which in the grand scheme of things gave us about $5,000
Oh, okay.
for the hundreds of thousands of dollars that
But you
we,
negotiated an improvement in the kickback of the kickback
from the state,
from the state.
for the mortgage tax retention.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yes. So no, I don't get to arbitrarily decide that it had to be, and that amount, if the state would have said, no, we're not going to do that, then that would have been the end of it.
Well, then my question to you is, did you ask for enough?
What's that?
Did you ask for enough?
Well, they'll take from one pot and go to another, it's
Well, I'm happy to
it's
take it
one
out
of
of the
those things.
state's pot. and put it in
Five
yours.
months in, I'm trying to be a good faith actor
Okay.
with all of my partners. But ultimately, for this one in particular, I just want to be very, 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 very clear that this is not a raise for raise's sake. Okay, so right now, the DMV administrator who oversees 3 locations, 17 employees, and $10+ million in transactions, of which the county puts almost $1 million back into the county coffers. Her salary would go from $57,821.40 to $60,114.60. And this increase is not just for money purposes, it's based on her responsibilities, because the job descriptions at the county level had not changed, though the duties required from New York State have. So when I submitted the paperwork to HR, it was based upon the duties that they came up with the grade. It wasn't, I think she deserves a raise. It was, she has more responsibility than she did before. I just want to be
I'm
clear.
familiar with
I just don't want to
paid
be
points and
accused.
all of that kind of
I just
thing.
don't want to be
Gotcha.
accused of trying to grow government and steal from the people and all the different things.
Really?
Well,
Thank you, sir.
And I'll say, it's rare that the state would adjust the rate of kickback and sentence. So in the sense that we may send you the table for more negotiations based on your track rate for safety net or other programs, there's others, so.
We'll have to
maybe we'll
increase
send
your
you
pay.
What's that?
We'll have to increase your pay for
I
those
don't want an
negotiations.
Don't want an
Commission.
increase in pay.
Any other questions or comments associated with this resolution? Any comments associated not specifically pertaining to this resolution? We had a lot of those. Not hearing any, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is 13. It's a proposed resolution amend capital project accounts and establish capital contingency fund, Jamestown Community College. This has been tabled in other committees, and wish that we just continue to leave it tabled as it has been. Any
All right.
other objections or comments?
Tabled.
Okay, moving into the next proposed resolution, number 14, is amend the 2026 budget for ARPA capital projects.
Hello again. Todd Button, First Deputy Director of Finance and Treasury, representing those who could not be here today. The resolution before you today is to amend the general fund budget to recognize the transfer of funds that will need to be made this year to the capital projects fund for the last of the ARPA capital projects that are going to be expended this year. Before we get to your discussion, I understand there was some confusion or misunderstanding about a previous resolution last month. Last month in April, we adopted Resolution 11526 to update the general fund budget for balance of ARPA projects from 25 to 26.
Which one?
This resolution last month had to do with ARPA projects that were spent directly in the general fund. Since we adopted ARPA in, what was it, 2022, started spending money, there have been two ways that we have spent those funds. One was directly out of the general fund for projects within the departments. The other was within the capital projects fund. When we do an ARPA project in the general fund, that money is pulled from the ARPA reserve and put directly into that department's ARPA fund revenue to offset the expenses in that department. When we spend money in the ARPA capital projects fund, we have to transfer that money from ARPA through interfund transfers from the general fund to the capital projects fund and place it in the revenue in the capital projects fund. Capital projects are automatically rolled over each year for the spending side of that, but the transfer of revenue needs to be updated in the general fund so that we can adequately transfer those funds within the budget. So that is why the April resolution was $331,000 as the balance of general fund projects that were going to be expended, and the resolution today for May is $600,000 for the balance of projects to be spent in the capital projects fund. I hope that answers those questions.
Well, thank you for the clarity. Sometimes the intertransfers and funds and that process is confusing and busy. Questions, comments relating to this resolution? Not hearing any. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is carried. Thank you. Next resolution that we're going to cover today is we're going to go out of order a little is number 17. It's a proposed resolution to amend the 2026 budget for Navigation Snowmobile Department, Office of the Sheriff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sheriff Jim Quattrone from the Sheriff's Office. This resolution is a budget neutral amendment that we are looking to increase our New York state aid for the snowmobile law enforcement grant for a snowmobile trailer purchase. So we want to increase our equipment appropriations by $11,121, decrease our contractual appropriations by $131, and increase the New York State aid by $10,990.
That's great. Any questions or comments related to this resolution?
And, Mr. Chairman, this is to buy a trailer.
That's correct, a trailer for the current snowmobiles we have.
Okay.
So,
How many do we have? That
we have 2 snowmobiles, so this is a dual
Mhm.
trailer. I think that's what it's called. A trailer that can handle 2 snowmobiles.
Mhm.
So,
Dual capacity.
And how many officers are, like, dedicated to enforcement of the snowmobile?
we have 2,
Regulation.
we just have 2 that are dedicated.
Mhm.
They are our navigation deputies, so they handle,
Ah.
during the summer, our vessels out on the lakes,
Mhm.
wintertime, the snowmobiles, and on their off time, there are, and actually all through the year, our fleet maintenance. So they're multi-purpose deputies.
Do we have one for each lake then? Erie and?
Well, no, during the summer, we also bring on ideally 12 part-time deputies, or seasonal deputies, when we can find them. We don't have that many this year, and we haven't had that many for several years.
Because Lake Erie's got to be a little more important to make sure the Canadians don't come in.
Chautauqua Lake is where we dedicate most of the patrols. Then
Okay.
we do the minor lakes as well, and we have some special details that are out on
Lake Erie.
Lake Erie at different times.
Does the state's troopers department come in and help with Lake Erie's then? I would assume somewhat.
I don't believe, we sometimes have Coast Guard vessels
Okay.
out there. I haven't seen many state
I
police
don't even know if
units
they
unless
have a
we
vessel
call.
unit, but.
Pardon me?
Said I didn't even know if they had a vessel unit, but I would assume being.
Yes, the
boundary
state
of
police
water.
have dedicated, they do have somebody that's dedicated just to their navigation and dive teams, and when needed, they will come and assist. They've been down here searching the lake with us on, in this most recent missing person.
Is it on a call basis, or do they do similar patrol in the sense of preemptive patrol?
Our navigation,
State police.
state police, it would be more on a call basis for
call
us.
basis.
Yeah. I don't know if they ever schedule anybody in Chautauqua Lake or Lake Erie. I'm not sure what their schedules are.
Okay. Any other questions or comments related to this snowmobile purchase of a trailer? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Next item that we are going to be covering today is 18. It's a proposed resolution authorized execution in New York State of Office of Homeland Security funding grant explosive detection K-9 team for the fiscal year 2023.
Yes, this Homeland Security Emergency Services Program grant is grant money that's handled by the New York State Emergency Services that we apply for and have been applying for each year. It enhances our explosive detection K-9 team, and it is already included in the 2026 budget, so there's no amendment needed.
Just an off comment associated with the K-9 team. I did notice that you introduced a new officer to the unit, and is taking the name of the undersheriff, which is a great contribution to the unit and dedication to a great officer that served the county a long time. So
K-9 Rich, and K-9 Rich will be going in the fall to get his training in the explosives.
great.
Very nice.
Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is carried. Next, proposed resolution 19 is authorized execution in New York State Office of Homeland Security funding grant bomb squad initiative grant program for the fiscal year 2023.
Again, this is a grant that we are getting from New York State for $77,500 for our bomb team. And again, it is budgeted in the 2026 budget, so there's no amendment needed.
Questions or comments?
So just a question on these two I always ask is, this is a grant, great, good thing to do, but is this creating a tail that subsequent years we're gonna have to fund? We get the thing set up with a federal grant, what happens in year 2, year 3, and year 4?
Yeah.
Do we expect the grant to be there, or do we expect to fund it ourselves?
Now, our bomb team, they do collateral duties, so they're already assigned to other tasks in the sheriff's office. This is extra duties, so this financing helps with the training cost. That, yes, we're gonna continue having to do the training if we wanna maintain a bomb team or explosives team, but this is offset any training that we have as long as we can keep the grant. The bomb team has been around long before I was in the sheriff's office, and we hope to continue. Hopefully, we never really need it. It's more of a preventive, but they do get called out periodically to searches, do preventive searches, preemptive searches. We are a Chautauqua institution for any of the major events and different things, so.
Sure.
Yep.
No, it's just, I always ask that question. You get a grant, it step functions up a level of expenditure. The grant is not continued in subsequent years, then we have to make a decision to drop it back down to where we were, or to continue it.
I wouldn't
And I
say
don't-
we've stepped up. What it's allowed us to do is purchase updated equipment and increase the training for our officers.
So, one-time grant, one-time commitment of funds.
Correct.
Okay.
And as it's proven, it's been distributed over many a years. We've received these grants a long time. and
Correct.
There's no notion that they aren't going to continue giving them. And if they don't, we unnecessarily would still be doing training. It's just at what expense that would be down the road.
Correct.
So, yeah.
And you'll see in the next resolution, a continuation of, for the next fiscal year. So,
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is carried. And our next resolution is, number 20, is authorized execution in New York State Office of Homeland Security Funding Grant Bomb Squad Initiative Grant Program for the fiscal year of 2024.
So this, again, same funding source, however, it's for fiscal year 2024, and the amount is for $44,014. And it's included in our 2026 budget already.
Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next proposed resolution that we will be addressing is 15. We'll go back up, and that one is authorized acceptance of criminal justice discovery and bail reform funding for the fiscal year 2025-2026.
Good morning, committee. Madeline Contiguglia for the District Attorney's Office. The first resolution we have for you today is to authorize the acceptance of the criminal justice discovery and bail reform funding for fiscal year 25-26. A little bit of background for the committee members that might not be familiar with this funding. We have previously received 3 installments of it in the past. This will be our 4th installment for it. And it's funding that New York State has offered the District Attorney's Office and municipal law enforcement agencies in the county to offset the increased expenses associated with the discovery and bail reform laws that were enacted by the New York State legislature in January of 2020. So after those laws were enacted, there was an unforeseen increase in expenditures for district attorneys' offices and law enforcement agencies. The state has offered us this discovery and bail reform funding to offset some of those expenses that we have incurred to increase the systems that we needed to comply with the laws. For this installment of the discovery grant, the county has been awarded a total of $1,068,942 to be split amongst the district attorney's office, the probation department, the sheriff's office, and the municipal police agencies in Chautauqua County. The amount that's been allocated to the police departments is a total of $297,000, and that is to be provided to the village of Fredonia, the village of Westfield, the Lakewood Busti Police Department, the town of Ellicott, the city of Dunkirk, and the city of Jamestown. The revenue associated with the funding for 2026 was not included in the district attorney's budget, the sheriff's office budget, or the probation department's budget. So we are asking for an amendment to increase our expenditures, but also increase our revenue by the same amount. It's a budget neutral amendment for each of the agencies. This grant can be used for as many years as the funding is available until the entire award is expensed. So any expenses that will be included in the 2026, or I'm sorry, the 27 budget, the 28 budget, and any budgets thereafter where the funding is still available to us will be included in our proposed budgets for those coming years. There were 2 typos in the resolution, so I do apologize for both of those. In the 10th whereas clause, where we indicate the funding for the agreements and the contracts for the municipal agencies and the sheriff's office and probation, the amount lists $297,000, but it was discussed last night at Public Safety that was a little bit confusing since the budget amendment for each of the agencies totals $307.39, and that includes, so the amount of $307.39 includes a piece of equipment for the district attorney's office in the amount of $10,039. So it was discussed that to change the amount to equal the amount of the budget amendment, just to make it a little bit more clear for anybody that reviews this resolution. The second typo was under the district attorney's office budget amendment for the equipment line. It lists 0.3 account equipment line. It should be a 0.2 account equipment line.
Question I have for you today regarding this is, in the beginning, you had alluded that this grant is a grant that we've received to help offset additional expenses that your department specifically has experienced, but also others. Would you be able to elaborate what additional expenses because of this legislation the departments have experienced, and how much of this grant is actually what it's covering,
So for the district attorney's office specifically, our agency has seen an increased in digital evidence that is associated kind of with just, I think that's not necessarily related to the changes in the discovery laws, but just the changes in technology in general. For a lot of people have cameras, and all the police agencies have body cameras, and 911 calls and all kinds of digital evidence. So we have, for our office, attempted to purchase equipment that makes reviewing and sifting through that digital evidence much simpler for our office. With the changes in the discovery laws, the defense now requires more information, and they are looking for more information. They're expecting more information in each of the cases, and so there's a little bit of just more information associated with all of the cases that we've seen on a low level for a violation all the way up to a homicide. So the case size for each case type that we have in the DA's office has increased exponentially. So we're always looking for new technology and software, or things that can help us sift through and organize that information in a more efficient way for our office. It also has offset some personnel expenses that we've had for just increased staff that we've needed to comply with the discovery laws. We've had to add paralegals to our office, which historically before 2020 did not exist in the district attorney's office. So a lot of this funding offsets some of their expense. And for the municipal police agencies, I don't want to speak too much on their behalf, but a lot of them have asked for improvements to their body-worn camera systems. They've asked for improvements to their interview room systems, and just to increase their speeds of internet so that transferring the discovery items to the district attorney's office becomes simpler process for them.
Would you say it's hard to put a number on anything in the sense of what could be associated with the change, but would this be considered a 100% offset, 50%, 25%? Hard to say?
Yeah, I would say it's hard to say. We do allocate just a certain amount, a small percentage of the personnel increase that we've had, using this funding. But any equipment or software that we purchase, that's 100% offset, because we wouldn't have purchased it without this funding or without the changes to the law. So, this $10,000 piece of equipment is for a digital forensic investigation computer that is the size of this table. It's very large, and it's used to process the discovery items and do cell phone extractions and car entertainment system extractions, which we wouldn't have purchased without the changes to the laws and without this funding.
Okay.
I have a question. Was it an equal split between the DA and the probation and sheriff?
The grant requires a minimum of 67% be allocated to the DA's office, and then the remaining amount can be split amongst the police departments and the sheriff's and probation office as agreed upon by each of the agencies. So all of the agencies, they submitted a proposal to our office, and we worked together with the chiefs and the district attorney and myself to try to provide them with as much of their requests that they asked for. Each of the departments needed a different level of need. The City of Jamestown Police, since they're a better funded agency, required a little bit less than, say, the Village of Fredonia or Village of Westfield. So I would say that the split was among the police departments was fairly equitable, but there was a minimum amount required to go to the DA's office.
Any other questions or comments? Not hearing any. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Just carried. Next resolution is 16. It's authorized acceptance of the statewide targeted reductions to intimate partner violence strive grant funds for the year of 2026, 2027.
Madeline Cantiglia again for the DA's office. This resolution that we have before you is to authorize the acceptance of the Strive grant that's administered by the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services. It's a grant that Chautauqua County, as a partnership, receives from New York State to combat intimate partner violence offenses in the county, but more specifically within the city of Jamestown and the city of Dunkirk. The county as a whole has received a total of $970,907. That's to be split amongst the City of Jamestown Police Department, the City of Dunkirk Police Department, the Salvation Army of Jamestown, the District Attorney's Office, the Sheriff's Office, and the Probation Department. The City of Jamestown was awarded, and I do apologize, there was another typo in this resolution. Their award right now lists $290,000, 478. It should be 209,478. I transposed the numbers when I was writing the resolution. So their amount was the 209,478. The City of Dunkirk was awarded a total of $5,000. The Salvation Army of Jamestown was awarded $156.61, and they will be executing their own contracts with New York State. But the county's portion of the funding was a total of $600,000, $368, and that was split between the DA's office, probation, and the sheriff's office. The DA's office was awarded $366, $482. The sheriff's office was awarded $85,000, and the probation department was awarded $148,86. The amount for the revenue was partly included in the district attorney's, sheriff, and probation budgets for 2026, but the amounts that we received exceeded the amount budgeted for those agencies. And this grant runs between April 1st of 2026 through March 31st of 2027. So the amount for the balance to be spent in 2027 will be included in the proposed budgets for you when we do those later this year. So we are asking for an amendment to each of the agencies, which are budget neutral, to increase the expenses and the revenue associated with this funding by the amount that was previously budgeted, but the difference between what was actually awarded for each of the agencies. And there was one other typo in this resolution, so I do apologize for that. Under the probation department, to increase the appropriation accounts, it reads personnel, Personnel. It should be personnel, Personnal services. So I do apologize for that.
So, my usual question, this Strive, a little background on this Strive program. Is this a one-time grant, or is it new, or is this something?
It's new from last year. This is the second year that we have received it. So it was brand new last year. So this will be for Strive 2. I expect that we'll be receiving this grant for several years to come, but obviously we can't guarantee that. But it is a new program, so we're still developing what we are doing in our efforts to reduce intimate partner violence in these areas.
So, I mean, the reason I ask these questions is, I mean, over the years, county government and county headcount has just grown and grown and grown. And one of my hypotheses is that, at least recently, we get grants, they run for a while, we build infrastructure to do that, then the grant goes away, and then we pick up that infrastructure on our own nickel. And so each time, if we get one of those kind of grants, we need to be ready to step back if we lose the grant, and then ask ourselves the questions, are we, or are we really making a decision to go forward with this long-term if it comes back on us?
Yeah,
That's why I asked those
I do
questions.
understand that. With this grant, there was a requirement of a project coordinator to be hired to oversee the operations of this grant. That individual is housed in the district attorney's office. But if for any reason we don't receive this grant anymore, that position would no longer be needed in the office. The DA's office did also add a part-time investigator within the DA's office to investigate these types of offenses and work with the police department on these types of offenses. But again, if the grant if we did not receive the grant again, we would no longer have that position. For the sheriff's office, their personnel expenses are just overtime costs for existing deputies, so there was no additional positions associated with it. And for the probation department, they added a senior probation officer to supervise domestic violence and intimate partner violence cases for probation. But if for any reason we didn't have the funding, I believe that they would remove that position. But I can't speak for probation, for sure.
It's just asking that kind of question to try and combat unanticipated creep.
Yep, no, I understand completely. I don't expect this grant to go away because they developed this large new program, last year. This is the second year, so I don't expect we'll be losing it anytime soon, but we of course can't guarantee that.
Yeah, I wish we didn't need it.
That too.
Yeah,
I mean,
so it would go away.
hopefully at some
Yeah.
point we've done our jobs and maybe we no longer need it.
Yeah.
And then what do we do with the funding? Forget.
That's the next step.
Other questions or comments? Thank you for your explanations today.
Thank you.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, it is carried. Next, proposed resolution today is our final one, it's number 21, it's to amend the 2025 budget for year-end reconciliations, Department of Mental Hygiene and Social Services.
Good morning, Blake Gehrig, Director of Administrative Services. This resolution is to correct an oversight. There was a journal entry made towards the end of March. I thought that entry was accounted for within the last resolution in March for year-end reconciliation, but it wasn't. So this is the resolution to correct that.
Questions or comments? What was the specific adjustment?
It was a prepaid expense for our 2026 conference in 2025.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is carried. Thank you. That brings us to other today on the agenda. And we do have something under other. Was it maybe, next one? Does anyone, what I was referring to is something for a next meeting. Anything under other that would be wished to brought to the table today?
Was this the southern tier?
Okay, all right, I thought so. Was what Mr. Feldman called me on yesterday, that's what I thought.
Good morning, I'm Colin Bishop from Feedmore, Western New York. I do have some handouts that I can leave behind or pass them around now if you guys would like them. I'm here because had a meeting recently with County Executive Wendell as well as Senator Borrello. We've been talking to them for a long time about the work that we do in Cattaraugus County, Chautauqua County, across our service area, and the need for a new facility that we're currently building in Hamburg. The reason the new facility is in Hamburg is because it's the geographic center of our four-county service area. Makes it a lot easier for us as a direct distributor of food to that geographic region to get to all four counties easily. So we've been raising awareness about that, and we are continuing to fundraise for the project. They're interested in helping us out and suggested that we start by speaking to this committee. So a little bit about Feedmore for people who aren't aware. We're a comprehensive hunger relief organization. We are a food bank. We are a Meals on Wheels program in Erie and Niagara counties. We're the food bank for Erie, Niagara, Chautauqua, Cattaraugus counties. In Chautauqua County, we work with 44 partner agencies. These are the food pantries, soup kitchens, places you guys are probably familiar with most closely in your communities that actually provide the food to people, but behind the scenes, our food bank is the one that is distributing food and making sure that they always have food on their shelves. Oftentimes those donations obviously come from the community as well, but anything that they're not being able to receive as donations directly from the community or through purchasing themselves, they will order from our food bank and we'll deliver it to them. Our mission is to make sure that, no one goes hungry. You guys are probably all familiar with that Snickers commercial of, you're not yourself when you're hungry. I like to say that because it is something we truly see, but it isn't just somebody who becomes hangry. If you're a child who goes to school hungry, it's a lot harder for you to learn. If you're an adult and you're trying to have a steady job, if you're also dealing with food insecurity or hunger, it's a lot easier, a lot harder to do that, a lot harder to provide for your family. So the work that we do, making sure that people always have continual access to enough and the right nutrition, helps make sure that everybody can lead their best life possible. In Chautauqua County specifically, last year we served nearly 16,000 individuals through that food bank distribution network, and that's a 42% increase over the last 5 years. Our program distributed 14,000 backpacks of food to children in Chautauqua County elementary schools last year. That's a program that elementary schools that elect to work with us make sure that on Fridays, kids who qualify for free or reduced lunches have a bag of food put in their backpacks to take home for the weekend, because if they're in need of nutritional assistance through the school during the week, they likely need it on the weekend as well. Like I said, 44 community partners, and we also have a farm market truck. This is open to anyone because it sells produce at wholesale cost. It isn't a free service. And it has 3 stops in Chautauqua County towns, and it does come regularly. So over the course of a month, there are 7 opportunities where anyone from the general public could come to one of those farm market stops and purchase fresh produce at wholesale costs as a way to save money and make sure that they're purchasing healthy food. We do work with double up food buck programs, so people who have SNAP are able to stretch those dollars a little bit farther on the farm market truck and make sure that they're getting more healthy produce for the limited dollars that they receive. The new building that we're building is 197,000 square feet. It will be a permanent home. We're currently operating out of 2 legacy facilities. When the food bank and the Meals on Wheels program merged in 2020, their 2 legacy facilities are what we continue to work out of, and they've become too small for the work that we do. So the new facility will bring everybody under the same roof, doubles the size of our warehouse. It adds additional loading docks, which, like I said, for a direct distribution model. Makes it a lot easier for the logistics of getting trucks in and out with food to the partner agencies and receiving the food that we need. We also have a commissary that right now Chautauqua and Cattaraugus counties don't benefit from. We currently produce between 5,000 and 6,000 meals a day for our home delivered meal program, Meals on Wheels, as well as community dining sites in Erie and Niagara County. The new facility will have the capability of producing 20,000 meals a day, and that's where there is potential for Chautauqua County to benefit if there is ever a desire for food produced from our commissary to come down for community dining sites in Chautauqua County for seniors or any other program. We would have the capacity to start producing those meals at probably cheap costs because of the ability to purchase in bulk and produce large quantities of the meals. So that'll be something that in the future with the new facility we'd be able to offer to Chautauqua County as well that we don't currently do. It will also include some new functionality that we currently don't have. It includes a bulk repack room and a protein suite, and both of those are going to be game changers. In New York State, we will be the second food bank facility with a bulk repack suite, and that is the currently when we receive donations, they're canned goods, dry goods, that the volunteers sort and distribute, or we distribute out to partner agencies. Occasionally, we will get an offer from a food manufacturer for like a 100-pound bag of flour, but you can imagine a pantry and a person at home does not need a 100-pound bag of flour, so we have to turn those away because there's nothing that we can do with it. Our bulk repack room will allow us to take a 100-pound bag of flour and portion it out into smaller containers that now we can share within the network. Like I said, we'll be the second food bank in New York State to have one of those, so it'll be a great asset to Western New York as well as the rest of the state. The protein suite, we will be the first in New York State and the first in the entire Northeast to do it, and it's the same kind of idea, but it's with protein that comes in large quantities, isn't packaged for individual use. In the last 5 years, we've approximately had to turn away $13.5 million worth of donations that are either bulk or protein that we did not have the capacity to store or repack. Obviously, we will in the future, which is going to help all parts of our service area and allow us to take in more donations and distribute more food across that service area to partners like the ones in your community. The cost of the project is $110 million. To date, we've raised around 80% of that. The largest contribution has come from the state of New York, $24 million to date. We've received roughly $5.5 million from the federal government. Erie County has put in $3 million. And we are talking to all counties that are a part of our service area because we think that it would be a good look if every county that benefits from the services has something in the table to, continue to make this mission possible. I don't have a number for what that looks like for Chautauqua County, but I did do some math based on Erie County for the $3 million that they contributed to it, which is roughly 1/10 of 1% of their overall budget. If that gives you an idea of, what that could look like for Chautauqua County. I don't know the total budget for the county, but that's the kind of math in terms of how much Erie County gave as an indicator. Any questions?
Let's start us off. I want to thank you for coming down today to discuss this opportunity and the program and what you all do and what you're looking to do. Great news on the ability to be able to put together a new facility that's going to be more adequate for what you're doing. Feed More recently came up in a discussion a few months ago when we were concerned about federal funding cuts and things of that nature, and ability to be able to provide for those that were in need. And Feedmore came up in a number of instances, so we're aware of the organization's outreach and assistance within our county, and it is appreciated. So, with that said, it's certainly a consideration that this body will have to entertain. Questions, comments, any specifics from the committee today?
I don't know. The amount of the ask is, would it, are we You know, you mentioned Erie County, which is, their population's, I don't know.
3
off
times
the
our
top of my
size
head.
at least.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
Would the amount be based on our overall population or on the amount of use that Chautauqua County?
I think you guys could look at that however you like. We did not come to Erie County with a specific number in mind.
Yeah.
When we raised the awareness with them about the project and the need, they said, this is what we can do. And, you know, in a way, I kind of, I approach this body that same way, that, you know, if you guys want to look at it and consider it from any perspective of population, of need, of, you know, what the additional benefit to the community will be, if it is, you know, like I said, the Erie County's number and what portion of their total budget that equals, you know, I think there's a bunch of ways that you could look at it, and none of them would be right or wrong. It's just a matter of what fits for you.
sure. Legislator Nelson, if I can do my math right, if Erie County gave 3 million and that's 1/10 of 1%, their budget's 3 billion. In our case, our budget's roughly 300 million, so we're talking 300,000 to match them.
309.
309.
I'd also like to point out that I believe Erie County gets additional services that Chautauqua County does not receive. The Meals on Wheels and conjugate dining and things like that, right?
And currently, that's because of the limitations of our current facility. The additional space in the new commissary would allow us to produce enough meals that we could bring those same services here or offer those same services in Chautauqua County as well.
Okay. That would be replacing services that we're already providing.
And again, we're not trying to move in and replace it. It's just an option for you if should the need ever arise.
Sure, I was just trying to compare the two
Yeah.
appropriations.
And those, Erie County's is a contract with them as well. So that is separate funds that they're already contributing for the purchase of those meals every year, separate from the capital campaign.
Oh, okay, thank you.
What is your guys' kind of start date to break ground on this building? I guess what's your calendar timeline?
We expect to move in late this fall.
Okay.
Broke ground last year, and we just passed the 70% completion mark for construction.
Where exactly is it?
4832 Camp Road, so it's easy access to the thruway from there and allow our trucks to get anywhere across the service area.
4832.
Yeah,
Hamburg, you said.
Hamburg, New
No,
York,
I
yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
I'm familiar. I don't remember seeing this building going up.
Okay, so
Am I heading to the village or I'm heading to the lake?
you're heading towards the lake, and it'll be
Okay.
on the left as you head towards the
Okay.
lake. You know where the cemetery is?
Yeah.
It's right before you get to the cemetery.
I don't head to the lake very often. I head.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're not headed to the cemetery.
Yeah.
I would just like to say, I have never missed a meal in my life, and it drives me crazy to think that there's,
Yeah.
I recognize there is a need. And when you speak about children, that just, it really hits me. I'd like to see us somehow participate as a county towards this. That's just my personal
Thank you.
feelings.
And in this discussion and pertaining to that last statement in a sense, this body would maybe take in a consideration of an amount, what is that? So our body would like to hear from county departments of, association to try to help us determine what the amounts could be. And so, through Feedmore's approach, you work with different various departments within the county. Which department would you say would be a good, which departments do you closely work with in our county? Office of the Aging, do you work with mental hygiene? Which departments are you more associated with currently?
Yeah, in Chautauqua County, probably most closely with social services. perhaps a little bit for Office of the Aging. I know that in Erie County, it's a lot of Office for the Aging, but as you mentioned, that's probably because of the congregate dining and the Meals on Wheels program
Meals on
there
Wheels
specifically.
connection, yeah.
But, there's definitely overlap, in terms of the people that we're serving. A lot of them are seniors, a lot of them, working adults, veterans, children, obviously. So it spans a lot of different departments who might have access or who are aware of us.
So any specific food bank that depends on you solely, or is it all, as you just described, So, obviously, we have the ability to discuss with the Social Services Department, but you've listed a lot of work with all of our food pantries. And, it's in short of bringing in every one of those food pantries for their support or value. This body wants to obtain the best information they can to help consider a contribution to this project. But, how do we ascertain that information the most, or bestly?
So I think that's a great question. I'll call your attention to this. So I'll leave these behind.
Okay.
This is kind of an impact report for Chautauqua County, shows you all the partner agencies that we have. They're listed on the back as well. As an easy way to perhaps begin answering that question, I'll call your attention to a couple that I know are partner agencies with high volume, large numbers of clients, and one of those is the St. Susan Center in Jamestown, as well as the multiple Salvation Armies sites around the area. Those would probably be a couple of places that you could start and get a good sense of the impact Feedmore has on those specific organizations, because they have multiple sites and they serve high numbers of population. So that could be a way to begin, but you probably also have some knowledge when you look at this list of all the agencies who you hear from, Reese.
Do you have enough copies?
Yes, yeah, I brought 15 copies of all of this. The other page is a little bit of more information about the new site as well. Absolutely. I left my business cards in there as well, if there's ever follow-up questions.
I'll do my best to do that.
No, it just is amazing in this day and age where we're spending in the farm bill, which is 80% SNAP. And why we changed that from food stamps to SNAP, I don't know, that's a separate issue. And the estimated fraud and theft in the SNAP program runs from $30 billion a year and up. And yet, we can't seem to keep, basic food necessities distributed, through a panoply of organizations. It's like, what? And and what were we doing 50 years ago that we somehow forgot to do?
That is comments that we hear frequently.
And then you get back to drug addiction and, those kind of problems. But the other one, and it just amazed me as a commentary, is when we had COVID, and I noticed the school buses running around in the summer. Like, what's that about? Oh, they're delivering food. The schools have a tough enough time just teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic. And we seem to be lumbering them with all sorts of other community activities. And not that the community activities are wrong, but I'd really like the schools to focus on schooling and not have to focus on these other things.
Are the schools contributing? Have you approached the schools at all in the sense of their contribution to this as well?
No. The schools, when you see a school listed there as either a pantry or a backpack site, we do have pantries in some schools. Those are for middle schools and high schools, where students during the day or after the end of the day could visit that pantry and bring home food for the families. It's an easy way to, help serve a population when the kids may be the most accessible because of work and everything else that parents are trying to do, to be the ones that bring food home. So that's why some high school pantries exist. the backpack programs in elementary schools are specific to elementary schools, but there is no cost to the school districts to do those. You know, that's a cost that we bear and is a difficult one to fundraise for. We certainly could not necessarily accommodate everybody who asked for that until we receive additional funding for it, and that's something that we're always fundraising for. There are also sometimes where the schools contribute is the manpower. So there needs to be somebody at every one of those schools that's going to oversee it, somebody who makes sure they identify the children who qualify and get the food to them every week or invite them to the pantry. So they're the ones that facilitate making it happen. We're the ones making sure that they get the food delivered when they need to be restocked.
So this is an area that really isn't, you don't really have a great continual funding source for this particular program.
And we've seen it grow a lot. It's become, you know, in terms of the programs that we have, one of the fastest growing. So we're continually trying to reach, you know, new funders, donors who want to make that possible so we can continue expanding that program and not ask school districts to pay for it because we know their budgets are already limited as well.
Questions, comments, anything?
It's great information. I just pulled up your website.
Yeah, I would recommend that, you know, as legislators, we look at this, I would maybe ask that the clerk maybe pass out each of these to the other legislators that aren't present today. So that way they could look at this list of partners and if they would maybe do their homework of reaching out to the pantries and sites and things that fall within their districts to help educate the rest of the body to formulate an amount. Obviously, this will be discussed thoroughly with the county executive's office as well, and our county stakeholders as far as the departments that are involved. So, you know, we want to thank you for your, first of all, you know, the work that you do here in Chautauqua County and the support that we've received, and honestly, the support and things that you'll continue to do whether we contribute or not. Right?
Correct.
So, you know, you're going to continue to offer these services and hopefully build upon those. So in the sense that, you know, eventually you will see some contributions from the county just because naturally there may become more as the facility is facilitating. But, you know, for us to consider a direct contribution to this, we'll do some homework and some I'll lean on other legislators to try to reach out to their communities, but I think it's could be a great opportunity also to interact with some of those larger ones that you mentioned, the Salvation Army, maybe the St. Susan's Soup Kitchen, reaching out to some of those larger ones to maybe get a feel for what the impact is that Feedmore has with them so that we can put that into more of a picture when it comes to our determination of a contribution, if any. So,
And again, from your website, I'm educating myself, and I never heard of these, but a question is how the county interacts with this program, HPNAP and NY, and, you know, Nourish New York, that are state programs that I guess parallel to yours. Are we involved with those at a county level? Anybody know?
So yes, the Nourish New York and things are those are
Through Family Services?
sure, and also Office of the Aging. So yes, you know, those are things that the county is, you know, and I think you know, a point of clarity too is the county is very involved with things that Feedmore is doing. We also have some local agencies that are doing a similar thing that Feedmore is doing and other processes. What Feedmore does is it aids and contributes to other things that we do not have
in our communities, in Chautauqua County, and that's, you know, the support for these food pantries. You know, you guys sounds like you're solely contributing to these food pantries and helping them be in the distribution of what they need. The backpacks, campsites, those are something that Feedmore is doing that otherwise wouldn't be probably getting done if you weren't doing it. And sounds like the farm market, you're solely doing the farm market option in Chautauqua County, right?
There is a veggie van, I think they call it in Jamestown, that
Okay.
does something very similar, but that's why when you look at the map, you'll see that we're not in Jamestown with our farm market truck, because we're not trying to take away from them.
Okay.
The goal is never to encroach on someone else's mission. It's to be there to support and fill gaps. You know, and why I, again, you know, mentioned, you know, the prepared meals. Just because we have the capacity does not mean we want to move into Chautauqua County and prepare all your meals. But we have that capacity. If the need ever arises that you need meals ordered through Feedmore, we'd be able to start doing it for you.
So,
Certainly.
so an internal question is, within the executive, kind of who's on point of coordinating an integrated approach to these various programs, like Nourish New York or Feed More? And so we as a county have a point person department that can integrate this at a county level intelligently. Who would that be?
I see Pierre sit up in his seat a little. It sounded like maybe you had something to say, and I'll report back to, you know, Feedmore started off this process by approaching the county executive and having those meetings. And they met, and then it was referred to them also by the county executive's office to come to this body to present to us today.
All right.
And so it's on to us. Now, I think that you have a great question, because where does it go from here, and how is it researched? And I assume that's why Pierre is sitting forward, is to give us that process.
The departments that are involved are all in the executive branch. So the county executive would be point on this. And in particular, the county executive is going to be presenting us with his tentative budget, which hopefully will include some information regarding participation with Feed More Western New York. We then have the opportunity in adopting our budget to make any additions, deletions to his recommendations in that regard. I think that, not knowing exactly why the county executive suggested this presentation today, my assumption is that if he includes something in his tentative budget in this regard, he wants us to be aware of the details of why he has presented it in his tentative budget. That's my guess.
I mean, just big organizations, you got a lot of people trying to do the same thing, begs for coordination.
Right,
And
and
that-
that's the executive branch's
And I would say that, you know, through the last couple of years, and through this committee specifically, we've tried to insert ourselves to be a proactive body in sense of help establish these amounts and these thoughts prior to just seeing it at a budget at the end of the year. So I thank the county executive for this initiative to have Feedmore come to present to us today, to allow us to be able to do some more research, and also gives us the opportunity, I think, to reach out to some of these community partners, so that way, when the budget is proposed and it's under consideration, we'll have had our research been done, and we won't be trying to do it in a short order. And so I would, you know, just again go back to the homework assignment of the legislators to reach out to their communities, that are listed on this handout here, and also I think it's pertinent that the through discussion and other items on the agenda, that potentially those departments that are connected to any relationship with Feedmore, social services one, maybe come present and describe their interaction, but also, you know, St. Susan's is a great one that maybe would come and at least express the level of
contribution that Feedmore has for their programs. It would just help us paint a picture so that way we're informed, so.
I'll just go on record saying whatever the county executive proposes, I will support it in favor of Feedmore.
Thank you. I'll add a little bit, hearing the conversation and questions about HIPNAP and Nourish New York. I'm not aware of any department in Erie County that works with us for either of those two. That's usually directly from the state to our food bank as well as the other 9 food banks across the state of New York. And Nourish New York, so you can applaud him when you see him again, was the brainchild of Senator Borrello during the pandemic to help make it easier for food banks like ours to purchase food directly from New York farmers and share it within our communities for people who need nutritional assistance. And it's been a wonderful program, and it has roots right here.
Great. One thing
Learn
I
something new.
noticed,
Yeah.
in addition to the food, I noticed in the support wing of this new facility, there's something called RISE, which is
Workforce
to grow
development.
Workforce
Yeah.
development, yeah, that sounds like a really good thing. I don't know if you can expand on that. or
Sure.
can-
So we have workforce development currently in our current warehouse. We're teaching warehousing and logistics. It's a free 10-week program for individuals where they can learn on-the-job training, basically with forklift. They get the forklift certification, OSHA certification, all kinds of other things that make it easier to be employed in a warehousing or logistics job coming right out of that program. We try to prevent any barriers to joining that program. So if you need childcare help or you need transportation, you need food while you're in the program, the proper work gear, boots, etc. We provide all of that during the time that you're in it. That we also make sure everybody has some soft skills training, so financial literacy, interview skills, resume writing, make it easier for everybody going through the program to land the job that they want and improve their career potential. So that's warehousing and logistics. We do the same thing with a culinary program, which is currently based out of Buff State because we don't have space for a teaching kitchen. The new facility will have that. That's a 12-week program. It includes an internship at the end. Same kind of idea, all the soft skills as well, but you're learning culinary skills so that you can work in a commercial kitchen or a food manufacturing facility. In the new facility, soon after moving in, we plan to launch our third option, which would be driver training, so that we can start teaching people to get a CDLA or a CDLB. Obviously include all the soft skills as well. I don't know how long that would take. We're still in the implementation phase of preparing that curriculum. And then probably a year after moving in, launch a fourth RISE opportunity, which would be RISE Agriculture, because we do have a lot of opportunities that we will have at the new facility with a community garden, with hydroponic farming, as well as some deep winter greenhouse. All of it is, as you can tell, strategically aligned with the work that we do, so it's great to involve the community in learning those skills and hopefully help people with better employment. And we've had great success in terms of graduating people and then also hiring people into our warehouse or into our commissary as we need them as well.
Good.
And it is free. We do get people from all over our service area. I'm not sure if we've had anybody from Chautauqua County yet, but I know we've had at least a couple Niagara County students that come in. So happy to continue to expand that and raise awareness about that. And the idea with it is that it's designed for individuals who have high barriers to employment, somebody who may be leaving the judicial system or a substance abuse program and needs that next step before they're right back in the job market.
Thank
Okay.
you. That's good. Good to know.
Any other questions or comments this morning? Well, we appreciate you coming in today and being available and the explanation and also we thank you for the work that you've provided for Chautauqua County throughout the years and will continue to do. So thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you.
Education.
Is that all we have for under other?
Okay with me.
Anyone else have anything they wish to bring in under other? Not hearing anything, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, we are adjourned. Thank you.